We're live.
Happy Wednesday. Happy Whiskey Wednesday to all out there in TV land. This is the Booze, Dancing, Entertainment Network with another live podcast. We're just hanging out tonight. We had a good movie and we got a fun kind of topic pre-holiday to talk about. Are we doing okay, guys?
I'm going to be better in about 2 seconds when I pour my first glass.
I tend to agree with that. Mike, you doing okay over there?
I've been drinking all day. I'm working all day. Working. I was working all day.
It's like breathing, isn't it?
Sorry.
It's like breathing.
They are synonymous, I think.
They are.
So do we have we're going to roll a little video?
Of course we are.
Some credits.
Oh, why don't we do that? We're going to come back and get this thing off the
rails.
Off the ground.
Get it off the
on
rails.
The air.
No, wait. No, we usually go. We don't want it off the rails. No, wait.
We want it on the rails, right? We want it off the roof, but on the rails. Yes.
So I'm running the intro.
Run the intro.
Sure, why not?
Okay. Welcome to What We Watch When We Drink, a Booze Dancing Entertainment Network podcast featuring lively discussions about movies, TV shows, and anything else that we're watching while we drink our favorite boozy beverages. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Audible, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can also find us on boozedancing.com, and if you have any questions, comments, show or drink suggestions, email us at boozedancing@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Just like that fine young man on that intro said, this is the What We Watch When We Drink podcast on the Booze Dancing Entertainment Network. We are the unofficial podcast of record for Conspiracy Theories Incorporated, Princess Diana's accidental death, the so-called landing on the moon, the truth about our beautiful flat Earth, the best places to shop in Area 51, Illuminati headquarters at Denver International Airport, Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, UFOs, Jim Morrison, Elvis, and of course, the Easter Energizer Bunny Grand Theory. We've got them all here for you if you need them. Now, we could talk conspiracies all night.
I'm going to ask you one question.
We'll ask one.
What are you smoking?
Smoking? He said smoking?
I said smoking.
We might talk about this all night, conspiracies, but we're not, because we don't know who's listening. So we're going to keep this under the radar as much as we can. So we're going to talk about a really good movie tonight, and we're going to talk about some whiskeys. And I think what we're going to do first, before we get rolling too far, is we're going to pour a little whiskey in our glasses. We're not going to say what they are, and we will get the show rolling. How's that sound, guys?
That sounds perfect to me. That's very perfect. Right. Ready, and
I jumped ahead.
That was a good sound.
I got a pop. Do I got a glug? Let me see.
All right.
Not much of a glug, but that's okay.
Ooh, that smells good.
Ooh, yeah. All right.
Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Okay. Gentlemen. Cheers.
Ooh, that was actually really good.
There you go.
Almost like stereo. So maybe before we get too far into our whiskey talk, we should mention what our movie's going to be tonight.
Okay.
Ange, what are we watching tonight? What are we talking about tonight?
Well, we were trying to go with the theme of rookies, since we're going to be talking about like whiskeys and maybe starter whiskeys or intro whiskeys for those that are whiskey curious. So I did a little search, and I did movies and rookies, and you go through the list, and it's like Training Day and all these, and then suddenly Men in Black popped up. So the choice is Men in Black.
Men in Black. I don't know what year that was. 1997, I think.
1997.
Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. We're going to jump into that one shortly. But first, we are going to talk about, Angelo, you had this wonderful idea about talking about, in the theme of rookies, starter whiskeys. Whiskeys for the rookie, I think is kind of how you might have put it in.
Yeah, it was either a starter or, get someone that's interesting in whiskey, but doesn't know where to begin.
So before we dive too deep into that, into our specific categories, we're each taking one tonight. What was your first whiskey?
Oof, that's a good question. My first whiskey.
What was your first whiskey like in college? Let's start there. Because that was probably crappy, right?
What about high school?
Yeah. What about 8th grade? Way to go.
Well, maybe sophomore year. Might have been like a Dewar's. I might have had like a Dewar's.
A Dewar's? Yeah.
Yeah, like a Dewar's White.
I remember Canadian Club in my parents' house a lot.
Ooh,
And Seagram's.
that's too bad.
For like, mixed drinks. And
Yeah, there's a reason why they mixed it with 7-Up.
do you remember your first like single malt, like serious single malt? Or good bourbon or good Irish?
Probably like an old granddad. Or like a granddad and ginger ale. I think that was like a starter, or like a Jim Beam. Although I do remember Johnny Walker Black, and that was probably like sophomore year in college. And 3 of us may or may not have drank an entire bottle, but that's another story.
I worked with a guy who on his resume put as his hobbies Scotch. And I went out to a bar with him and I said, I don't really drink Scotch, so get me a Scotch. And he got an Oban, which is not a starter. And could scare the Jesus out of you and make you never want to drink Scotch again.
Maybe this is true.
But at home, Irish whiskey was always what was in the house.
Jameson or Bushmills?
Jameson or a handle of something a little less than Jameson. Whatever.
Yeah.
On a budget. Dad was on a budget. That was our NyQuil. We were sick.
There you go.
Had a bottle of blackberry brandy or a bottle of Irish whiskey in his bathroom for medicinal purposes only. So pick your poison, literally.
Old Number 7 was our medicinal whiskey in my house. I remember my mom pouring it when you had a toothache, when you had a cold, you're drinking some Jack. Now, I don't know why. That was the choice.
If you were just pissing her off, whatever, she was drinking it herself.
That's right. Exactly. My first single malt that I can remember of any note was my wife bought me for one of our first anniversaries. She bought a bottle of Auchentoshan, and I remember her saying that she bought it and that wherever she got it from, she just basically asked the guy what would be a good starter single malt for my husband, and if it was unpronounceable, it must be good. So that Auchentoshan was pretty unpronounceable back in those days for the lesser knowns. So that was my first, and we've gone downhill since then, right? Or uphill? Maybe it's uphill.
Our taste has gone uphill. Our livers have gone downhill.
Correct. This is true. Yes.
It's not downhill. It's a deeper dive. We've taken a deeper dive.
That's right.
That's right. It's very sophisticated. Yes. We're doing a deep dive. So, Ange, your choice, your category that you kind of bestowed upon yourself tonight was for the bourbon category, correct?
Yes.
Bourbon or rye category.
Bourbon and rye. Yeah.
American whiskey.
Yeah.
So what were you thinking when you chose this whiskey that you got? And well, maybe we talk about the price too. And why is it a good starter whiskey, you think, for someone who's not a real whiskey drinker?
Well, to be honest, I kind of messed up. I looked around. I went to 3 different stores. And as Mike knows, Jersey is the Wild West. So there's no consistency from store to store. So I was on the hunt for Wild Turkey 81, which I think is a good intro to Wild Turkey rye. It's only 81 proof. It's pretty affordable. I think I've seen it. It's like in the low to mid 20s, like $24, $25 a bottle. Yeah, so I was looking for that. Couldn't find it. I looked around. I went to one store. They didn't have it. Went to another store. They didn't have it. So I wound up buying myself a bottle of Knob Creek, which is not exactly a starter. It's a little more pricey. It's a little higher octane.
What's it come in at?
Well, I bought it. It was around 40.
And what's the octane?
Oh, the octane is 100.
You're 100, right? Yeah,
50% ABV.
It's whiskey with a 5.
That's right. It's a whiskey with a 5.
So when we talk about a starter whiskey for somebody, you want it approachable, right?
Correct.
So you don't want it too high ABV.
You don't want to scare them off.
You want to scare, well, you don't want to scare their taste buds off.
Correct.
But you don't necessarily want it, I don't know. I don't think I want it to be necessarily 40%. Maybe that's the minimum,
43,
right?
43.
43-ish is probably good. You have the easy category tonight because bourbons and ryes are pretty cheap in America today. Yep. There's so many great bourbons and ryes that are inexpensive compared to Scotch and Irish and Japanese and every other kind of whiskey. So price is, I think, relative.
Right. I mean, I went on the Total Wine site, like I said, before we started up, just to look around to see what their price was. I figured Total Wine is pretty national, so at least you can get a pretty good idea what the price is. So if you look at the bourbon category, and I took all bourbon, I sorted it from lowest to high. Of course, you got to get through all the minis that are like $1. So once you get to the $7.50 was my starting point. So it had to be a $7.50, not a $3.75, but a $7.50. So the first one I got to, which I think is a really, really good whiskey for the price, is the Four Roses. It used to be the yellow label. Now I think it's just the Four Roses bourbon.
Yeah.
$22 a bottle. Absolutely fantastic bottle of whiskey.
It's used in bars everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not even like their rail whiskey. That's like a step up if you go to a bar in a lot of places.
Right.
They'll give you some other kind of crap whiskey for like your bourbon and ginger ale or whatever, unless you request something else. So, I mean, the floor is $22 for a really, really good bottle of whiskey. And like, if I go to let's say I kept it under 40. So Four Roses will get you $21.99 for the regular. You can get up to a Russell's Reserve 10, which is a really good whiskey, $39. And it's 10-year-old bourbon from its Wild Turkey, right?
And the good thing with that is that if you are buying it as a gift for someone and they don't like it, it wasn't a great, expense to go and buy the bottle. You didn't go out and buy something for $150 that sits on their shelf for the rest of their lives. It's
not like you went out and bought somebody a bottle of like, Johnny Walker Blue Label.
Yeah.
Where you drop $200 and you realize, oh, they don't like Scotch.
Yeah. And then they don't like that Scotch. So they're certainly going to think they don't like Scotch. And it just sits there.
It's a great time in this country to buy bourbon and rye. We've talked about this with a few of our guests. There is so much of it in this country in barrels waiting to be bottled. And the price is just, I guess it maybe speaks of the fact that we have this overproduction going on and it's all going to fall apart one day. But the prices are already coming down on those lower end whiskeys.
I also think you have a lot more crafty people involved with it now, that it's not just the big, big brands coming out with stuff. So they can work with a lower price point.
All of my picks were really the big brands. I didn't really put any of the not the micro brands, but I didn't put any of the craft distilleries on the list. The only one, when I went to the rye category, I'd say Old Overholt was like kind of the floor at $22.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can go all the way up to, again, under 40, this Knob Creek, which is listed as $36. Now, one of my personal favorites, the High West Double Rye, which is, I think it's a lot of MGP and whatever else is out there.
Well, it used to be. I'm not sure about now, but it used to be, yeah.
Okay. $34. And I think that the High West Double Rye is a really, really good rye for cocktails or straight or whatever.
Well, the MGP part of the equation on the American whiskey is still huge, right? Mm-hmm. There's a ton, they're still a major player in for sourced whiskey,
right,
in this country for small to medium size.
Yeah, I mean, if I go back and look at the rye list, I bet you at least 3 or 4 of them are from MGP.
Sure,
because I think Dickel Rye is an MGP. I believe the Bullet Rye. I don't know if it is, but it was.
Well, it was, but it was. I don't know if it is anymore, but
it wasn't.
They were building a distillery. Yeah.
Okay. Tin Cup, I think, is also an MGP.
Tin Cup was MGP in the beginning, at least.
To a degree. Yep. I think it was them.
You get that cup, it's nice.
And you got the bottle.
That's right.
You got the hexagon. Yeah. Is it a hexagon?
That's
bottle?
Right.
Ah, it's a beautiful bottle. I like Tin Cup. I got a soft spot for it. It's nice stuff. So anyway, I mean, $22 going up to like $36.
Yeah. No, it's insane. Total Wine's a great example. We have them here in Los Angeles, in the West, and the bourbon and rye aisle is insane. It is crazy how many brands there are, and you do not have to spend $50 to get a great bottle. You don't have to spend $40 to get a great bottle, and you have to spend $20 to get a decent bottle. It's insane how much choice you have. Now, if we were in Europe, we could probably be saying the same thing about Scotch, but here in America, our 2 American spirits, there is a lot of it, and there's a lot of it available in a lot of places, which is great for the consumer. Yeah. So you recommend that as your Knob Creek as a good starter? I would. I think most of the Knob Creeks are, good starters, even at 50%.
I mean, it's a little bit of a higher price point. You're getting over like $35, which, I mean, for us that have been in the game for a while, $35 is like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But for someone that's new to the category, someone that's new to whiskey, they'll be like, oh my God, $35 for a bottle of whiskey. Yeah, but for $35, you're getting a really good bottle of whiskey.
What's that? The cinnamon flavored thing?
Oh, the
Fireball.
What's that cost?
I don't know, $20, $18.
So there you go. You're $20 for that, which, unless you got the taste buds for it, and you want to jump to a pretty good whiskey, you don't have to spend much more, and you're already in a different category. I mean, that's not really whiskey, but that's a flavored whiskey.
If it has any whiskey at all in it.
If $10 more or so, $20 more, and you're already at another level of whiskey drinking.
I mean, if you think about it, right? What cocktail now? What's the average price on a cocktail anymore? Even at like an average place, not even a fancy place.
Yeah.
$15?
$10 to $15 easily, yeah.
Yeah, and that's not including a tip and the taxes. So you're looking at $20 for one drink.
Yeah.
So when you get some snacks, $20, you could get a bottle, have some friends over, make some cocktails.
Yep.
Have a wonderful night for $20.
Yeah.
Not to put the bars out of business, but I mean,
no,
it ain't cheap to go out.
We all learned this during the pandemic, where you can make a cocktail at home as well as going out. And if you've got a pretty good little stash at home, you can get pretty creative and make some pretty darn good cocktails at home. We all learned that.
It don't take much.
It does not take much.
Really
3 ingredients and boom, you're done.
There you go.
Just drink it straight.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's good too.
Yeah, and that's for your rookies out there who are maybe have been doing the cheap booze. What was that stuff called again?
Fireball
or Tito's or something like that. That's one kind of drinker. But if they're waiting to step up to where you're drinking not a cocktail, you're just drinking straight, sipping whiskey, there's all of those are such good options that Ange pulled. I think they're just and the bonus is you can make cocktails with them too.
Yep.
Well, and I think the other thing you want to find you want to pick something that people can find in a bar.
Well, yeah,
that too. Yes.
So you want?
Am I going to find it on a shelf?
That's you're not going to give them a bottle where they can never get it out. So they can go out and see it and go, hey, you know what? I have that at home. I like that. Let me go get that again. And that's great.
One more bonus point with all of these or a lot of these. If you don't want to buy the full bottle, you could just buy a mini to try it out, and it's a couple bucks.
That's true too. Yes,
which is going to be cheaper than buying it in a bar if you want to just buy a couple minis, bring them home, try them out, see what you like.
Yeah. So Total Wine they have two interesting sections. One is the airplane minis, right? The airplane minis, and it's in a massive selection of spirits. Pretty big brands, lots of bourbons, lots of some Scotch. But so you get those for I don't know what $3 or $4 a piece. I don't know what they cost. So there's those to try out. But then in the actual whiskey section, they have I don't know what they call it, miniatures, or they have another term, small sizes or something. Right. And they have 375s, and so whatever brand wants to make some weird size shaped bottle, like a miniature version of the Botanist or something. They've got those too. Not a ton of them, but if you don't want to get a whole big bottle, that's a good way to start on a journey too, I think.
Yeah, and like given this time of year, now is the time for sampler packs to come out.
Well, yeah, the whole Christmas pack thing, we laugh at it sometimes, but you're getting a mug and you're getting 4 minis, or you're getting a couple 200 milliliter bottles or something, whatever, and you get to try a few things out from a brand. So yeah, highly recommend that as an idea too.
There's a lot, and if you want to go to like craft spirits, I mean, I know Westland usually puts out a 2 or 3 pack at Christmas time. I just saw Barrel Craft Spirits. Our boy Gerace. Oh no, Beatrice. The Beatrice folks. They said they sent on a 4-pack. Yeah. With the seagrass, and I think it has the Amberana. It might have their bourbon, and it has one of their rye. And it's like $60-$70, and it's 4 100 milliliter bottles. You could have a damn good time with that kind of with that little pack.
Yeah, and you're trying out a few different things from one company and kind of figure out what your palate might be, so that you can go next time you go buy a whole bottle.
Yep.
So the point of all this is that if you really want to start getting into whiskey and you don't feel like dropping a whole lot of money, the bourbon and rye category is a great place to start.
Yeah.
It's a great place to start if that is your palate. That's right.
If that's what you're into.
So just a reminder, this is the What We Watch When We Drink podcast. We are live tonight all over the internets and various places. This will be a podcast coming up in a few weeks. We are talking about starter whiskeys, whiskeys for people who are just kind of getting into whiskey drinking. We've just talked about the bourbon and rye category. And now we're going to talk about what we all watched this past week. We are going to talk about a movie that was highly, highly popular. It came out in 1997, Men in Black. Ange, why don't you give us the rundown, the little short synopsis on what that movie's about, and then we'll kind of dive into it.
Okay. So the plot summary on IMDb, which I guess someone wrote, is based off of the comic book. Unbeknownst to other people, there is a private agency codenamed MIB. This agency is some kind of extraterrestrial surveillance corporation. One of the agency's finest men, only going by the name K, is recruiting for a new addition to the agency. He has chosen James Edwards, Will Smith, of the NYPD. Then one day a flying saucer crashes into Earth. This is, by the way, the worst written summary. I didn't read it. I just cut and pasted it. So, yeah. So Will Smith is the recruit for MIB, replacing Tommy Lee Jones's old partner. A spaceship crashes to Earth with a bug who is kind of hell-bent on, what's he trying to get? He's trying to get the galaxy? The galaxy, which is on Orion's belt. And, there's a whole standoff going on, and basically another alien nation or whatever is going to blow up the Earth if they can't surrender the galaxy to them. So that's kind of the movie in a nutshell.
I had not seen this movie. I don't know when I saw it last. I'm sure it crossed my channel surfing eyeballs, and I've seen parts of it in the last X number of years. It's not always one that I kind of like just get glued to and just like I have to watch it while it's on. I do remember enjoying it the few times I've seen it, and so this is kind of fun to go back to it. I didn't recall that it was such a short movie, only an hour and a half.
Well, it's a comedy to a degree. I think it's like an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty short. It was really fun. It actually reminds me a little bit of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I had the same kind of feel to it.
And not because of the special effects, but it's this, you're dealing, humans on Earth have got a problem with something that's otherworldly, and we've got to solve the problem and, save the world. And you've got the straight cop and the hip cop who battle each other because they're different ages and different backgrounds, and they're fighting the evil things. And that's also was not important. It's really the interaction between Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. This is early in Will Smith's career, right? I don't know how many movies he'd made by then.
It's after Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I think this was after, what was the movie he did, 6 Degrees of Separation?
Yeah.
I think it was right after that.
Bad Cops? Was that before or after?
Oh, Bad Boys?
Bad Boys.
That might have been after.
I think it was after.
That might have been after.
And Independence Day.
With Martin Lawrence?
Yeah.
Martin Lawrence, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is Tommy Lee Jones has been around for a while in real life, and now he's working with this punk kid, Will Smith, and I think they make a good team.
I thought they were great together. They had really good chemistry. The movie was pretty deadpan. They were playing it straight most of the time. Linda Fiorentino, our girl from After Hours.
She's great. We'll talk about casting down the road a little bit. Mike, what's your thoughts on the movie?
It's an extraterrestrial buddy cop film. That's what it is.
Exactly. That's what it is.
It's just fun. And, Tommy Lee Jones, who's not necessarily known for being in comedic roles, he plays the straight guy just so good.
He's so good at deadpan.
And even the supporting guys around him, when they roll in Rip Torn and they roll in some other people around it, and you're just like, they're just all just playing it straight, but it's not.
And this is directed by
Barry Sonnenfeld,
who is, we've talked about him before. He's class act.
He's pretty good. And, I forgot that he was also a cinematographer for the longest time.
Yes.
And, he did a lot of stuff. He did a lot of movies with Rob Reiner. He did the early Coen Brothers movies.
Yep.
He did Blood Simple. He was the cinematographer on Raising Arizona. Also Miller's Crossing. And I think that was it. So, he handled some, and they're three pretty big movies for those two guys, for the brothers Coen.
And his directing list is just pretty crazy. just in general. Yeah, I see that he's 70. Is he still doing? Has he done much since last in a while? I don't even know.
I think he's doing a lot. I think he's doing some producing.
Yeah, I think he's
okay.
I think he's also doing some
movies now as opposed to I'm working on them.
Yeah, I mean, you figure he's been making stuff since at least the 80s.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with Mike. It's really a buddy cop thing, right? And
right,
like Bad Boys, right? It's like,
by the way, I think it's the highest grossing buddy cop film.
Is that right? What did this thing make?
Okay, so the budget was $90 million. It would be like $200 million today. Gross box office USA and Canada $250 million. Opening weekend USA and Canada $51 million. Well, I mean, it opened on July 2nd, so it opened over 4th of July.
Yeah.
And $590 million gross worldwide.
And as we talked about before we went on, so you're talking this is $1 billion franchise easily, right?
Probably closer to 2.
Have either of you read the comic?
No,
I have not. No, I've never even seen it. Don't know anything about it. I don't know how far this thing is from the original.
And the other thing, it didn't just make a lot of money, but it's got a 91% at Rotten Tomatoes.
It does.
So,
well, it's a good movie.
It's not just the cash money. This is a pretty good movie.
I think it's really well made. It's highly entertaining. It moves quickly.
Yeah.
It's funny, and it's got a good story. I mean, it's a really fun story.
In 97, we're talking what? That's 26 years ago or so.
Yeah, 26 years ago.
And the special effects are pretty good.
They look decent. Yeah, they look pretty. They hold up pretty well.
Yeah.
And the makeup won the Academy Award. Rick Baker.
Oh wow.
The aliens look tremendous. They look like aliens. They
who's the actor that played the bug, the first bug?
Oh, it's Vincent D'Onofrio.
His whole face ripping off thing and moving his face around and his jaw, his eyeballs. They're really good.
Just the way he walked.
The way he walks.
That was just crazy the way they had it all done.
Well, he's pretty method, right? He's a pretty heavy method guy.
Yeah.
Why do all these things, these horrible things coming from other places, always seem to hit New York City? Why is it always New York City?
Because it's the bullseye.
It's the bullseye?
If you were an alien, you're making a list of like greatest cities. You're going to go to New York. You're going to go to London.
Just avoid Penn Station?
Well, that might feel at home at Penn Station. Especially if you're a cockroach.
If you watch the movie, they have like the Ellis Island going on there. Where the aliens
come
in, they come and get processed through a certain spot. They
get processed through.
Right. Just like Ellis Island.
Not Washington, D.C., not the capital of the country. It's got to be New York City. The city's so nice, they named it twice. Right?
That's right.
That's where everybody's got to go. Ghosts and aliens.
Sure. Speaking of D'Onofrio, so it says here, D'Onofrio researched his role as Edgar by watching a lot of bug documentaries. Of course he did.
Well, there you go. He's a method actor.
In order to achieve his character's distinctive walk, he put on knee braces so he couldn't bend his legs and taped up his ankles. Look at that. That's commitment.
That's commitment.
That's commitment. Or committed. One or the other.
That's right.
Totally.
Wow. That's impressive. Well, we'll come back and talk about some of the other roles here, or the other casting, and we always like that part. The Linda Fiorentino role was great because it's a good balance. I think she's like the normal person, but she's not that normal.
No, she works in the morgue.
She's the dark normal person, and she's she's sexy and she's funny and she's
so sexy.
She's smart. She's in the second one, right?
No,
is she in one of the ones?
I don't know if she is.
She didn't. She was another one.
No, I read something where they wanted to bring her back, but based on the script, they couldn't find enough for her to do. So they just wrote her out in the early stages of the second one.
I would like to have seen her in the second one.
That was a mistake because I thought their chemistry, her and Will Smith, were really great.
Mm-hmm.
They were so fun.
They were.
Yeah, but the second one they had the other woman in that.
Who?
Rosario Dawson.
Oh, yeah, it was okay. But I think it would have been good with what's her name. I think it would have been really good with her. But anyway, what can you do?
What can you do?
I mean, it's a script. You write her in, right? You beef it up a little bit. Come on.
Yeah, they could have made it. Yeah. Well, come on, Barry. It's too late to bring it all back now, but I'm surprised they haven't brought it all back.
I think they were trying to keep the focus on the two guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Well, Tommy Lee Jones he's a presence on screen, even with his sedated way about him.
Yeah.
He looms kind of large, even as quiet as he is. He's very sparse in his words and very serious, but he's almost like Clint Eastwood. I mean, I guess he probably comes from that attitude.
Funny you say that. I think another tidbit was they were trying to get Clint Eastwood, and Clint Eastwood didn't want to do it.
He would have been interesting in this, actually.
And then they're together in Space Cowboys.
That's right.
Another good movie.
Yeah, another fun movie. Yeah, totally.
I never saw that one.
Yeah. And Tommy Lee Jones, I don't really see him as a cop. I see him more like as a sheriff, right? In a Western.
He's played a sheriff a few times.
But he's great in this as a Fed or whatever he is. All right. Well, why don't we move on to our next category, Mike?
Yeah, I get Irish whiskey because I'm the Irish guy. So typecasting, the usual. Or it could be that I just drink a lot of Irish whiskey. I'm not really sure.
You always said you miss your heather and your gentle Irish drams.
And that's why I think Irish whiskey makes a good gateway. It's a nice opener for people who aren't familiar with whiskey because I don't think there's anything in it that's offensive. There isn't a single sharp note. There isn't smoke. There isn't any of that stuff in the introductory bottles you're going to get. And it's readily available pretty much everywhere. Every bar you go to is going to have Jameson, Bushmills, Powers, something like that. So when you get a bottle at home, you can actually get a drink out with it. And I think it transitions into a cocktail. The only knock on it is that it typically is at a rather lower proof. It's at 40 or 43. It's rare you're going to find them at a much higher proof.
But that's the approachability of it all, though.
And that's what makes it approachable. But I think some people are like, well, there's just not that much to it. It doesn't have the depth because it doesn't have the higher octane. I don't think that, but I think other people have told me that. They're like, it's only 40%.
Yeah. Just
drink more of it. It'll still get you there.
It is so prevalent. We talked about this before when we had Joanne on and talking about picklebacks, right?
Yep.
That Joanne McGinnis, that it is everywhere.
Yep.
It's in every airport bar. It's every 7-Eleven. It's every restaurant, bar, all over the world. If you don't know what to get, you can always go to Jameson, right?
And a bottle of Jameson is going to run you $30-$35. It's not a huge investment. If people didn't like it, you don't feel bad that it's sitting on their shelf at home. It's really not a big price. And then you can go vertically and try some of the other things they've done. They flavor one in orange. They make a cold brew where they put coffee into it. And they do two expressions that are cast barreled, where they do one in stout barrels. They do one in IPA barrels. So they do what they call their castmates. And a little bit of different flavor, still at the lower ABV, which again, it doesn't make it so it's a blinder. It still has the same base into it, but it makes it into something else. And then if you want to expand above that, you can spend a little bit more money and get into the Redbreast line, or you can get into spend a lot of money and get into the aged Jameson bottles, where you get a 15 and 18. They're quite pricey, but they have them out there too.
Don't forget Middleton's if you really want to splurge.
Well, Middleton is the step above.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
Price-wise,
that's
anyway.
the shelf above.
Yeah.
It is just ubiquitous. And it is, I think, because it's the ultimate in solid whiskeys, especially in that category, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of Irish whiskey out there.
Yeah.
This is not 20 years ago when there was basically
Bushmills and Jameson.
Bushmills, Jameson. There was like 5 of them at the bottom of the barrel, bottom of level, and that's all you could get. That's not true anymore. I think I saw that there are more distilleries in Ireland than there are now in Scotland.
Wow.
I think I saw that.
Really? I thought you were going to say people.
Because there's a lot of craft distilleries.
Right.
But there's so many now. And that category is just all over the place because you've got single malt Irish whiskeys, you've got you name it.
And you got the Brooklady guy who went and bought out of Brooklady and opened up the Waterford distillery. And that guy, he spends his time going and setting up the different farms that he buys exclusively, the grains from this farm, puts it on a bottle and says, this is from Tom's farm, whatever it is.
Yes.
It's not just some mass conglomerate that's rolling stuff out.
Isn't it Mark Renier or
Mark Renier?
Mark Renier.
And you have the Cooley family who've bought and sold a bunch of places. And Teelings is another solid whiskey out there. Where again, it's not just Jameson and Bushmills; it's a lot of others. The Proper 12. Oh, never mind.
Well, I was actually in a new Irish pub here in Los Angeles last night, and it was pretty amazing seeing all those Irish brands in one place. It was pretty amazing seeing, I don't know, 30, 40 bottles, and not all Jameson.
Yeah.
There was Jameson. There was probably 5 Jamesons up there, but there were also 5 or 6 Bushmills, and there was Teelings, and there was everything else we've talked about.
A little bit of everything, yeah.
Nope. And it is such a good whiskey for so many purposes. It's a great session whiskey. You can just sit around and drink you can get through a bottle really quickly if you want. You can make a cocktail.
Not by yourself.
Not by I meant we, not me.
The royal we? Is it the royal we?
You
me.
It's very inoffensive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and for this category we're talking about,
unlike Mike,
bringing people, unlike Mike, if you're trying to bring people into the tent who have been drinking Tito's and whatever, it's probably a good start. Now, most people probably who are rookies probably have had Jameson too. They know this. They probably don't know it very well. They just know it's that.
I think you want to get them beyond the shot in a beer and beyond the pickleback, where you're not just throwing it back and then throwing back your pickle juice and you didn't taste anything. I think it's something you can sip and savor and actually enjoy. Take a step up and go the next route with it.
When I fly and looking at the really crappy list that on most airplanes that you have an option on booze, I tend to go to the Jameson because the other ones aren't that exciting at all. And I know what I'm going to get with Jameson. The other ones are whatever. I mean, there's always a bad Scotch. There's always a meh bourbon, but you know what you're going to get with Jameson. Yep. It's not a shocker. It's good.
Yeah, and like I said, the price point is just such a it's not an obstacle in any way.
Any other thoughts on the Irish category, Jameson, at all?
Well, what's fun about it is that there's been so much expansion in it, and the flavors have gotten more broader, and the experimentation in the Irish whiskey, much like every other category.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you start out with Jameson and you like it, and you just want to stick with Irish whiskey for a while, you can expand your horizons pretty far and wide.
You guys have reviewed a few of them, right? On the
Irish whiskeys?
Yeah.
The Jamesons.
Oh, yeah. We've done a few.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Do you guys like those flavored ones? The orange and
we haven't had the orange. We did the IPA cask, which I liked.
Yeah, the stout cask is good.
I like the stout cask.
I'm not a big fan of the cold brew.
That was terrible.
Their coffee one.
That was terrible.
Because I'm not a big fan of coffee.
Well, I like coffee, and I didn't like that.
And you didn't like it because you just didn't like it.
It's just if I want Irish whiskey and coffee, I'll just make an Irish coffee.
But maybe if you were making an Irish coffee and you used that,
no,
maybe that would make it. I don't know.
No.
Never mind.
No,
sorry, I tried.
A little Demerara, a little bit of Irish whiskey, really good coffee, and really cold, really good whipped cream.
Okay.
Shout out to the Dead Rabbit, their Irish coffee.
The Dead Rabbit, yes.
$20 and worth every penny. Absolutely delicious.
Okay, well, we're going to get back to the movie for a little bit here. This is what we watch when we drink. Booze Dancing Entertainment Network. We are talking Men in Black, and we are talking starter whiskeys in a few different categories for folks who are trying to move away from some lower end spirits and going into the whiskey categories. We always talk about casting and where people have been, and we talked a little bit about the folks in this movie and other folks in the movie. There's quite a few folks that we know in the movie we've seen before. You guys want to pick a person or two and jump in on some of the other guys?
You've got Mr. What do you want to call him? Mr. Supporting Actor himself, Rip Torn. He doesn't have a huge role.
Chief Zed, he's the head of MIB.
But I'm saying you don't see a lot of him, but when he's there,
yes,
every scene counts. He makes every single scene counts. His line delivery is just fantastic. He's just great.
He is one of the best actors who plays the role of upper management, whatever he's doing, so well. Right. Well, whatever show he is the best at being that upper management. What were we talking
about before we went on the air? We talked about Defending Your Life briefly. He's fantastic in Defending Your Life.
and in Larry Sanders, right?
He's great in Larry Sanders. He's great in this. Yeah. He's great in Dodgeball. Come on, what was his name? What was his name? What was the character's name?
O'Houlihan or something?
Wait.
Yeah. Patches
O'Houlihan. Patches O'Houlihan.
If you can dodge a wrench,
you can dodge a ball. Oh, he was great. He's just so good. He's just always just so good in all this stuff. I lump him in the same category as Stephen Root.
They
just come in there.
Yeah.
They're just
similar guy.
So
similar guy. Yeah.
Similar guy. Although Stephen Root's more of a chameleon though. Rip Torn is always just Rip Torn. But Stephen Root is he's just crazy. Anyway, sorry.
Rip Torn, just looking, he studied under Lee Strasberg and started his career on Broadway.
Wow. I believe it. That would be fantastic to see him on Broadway.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then you got everyone's favorite, Tony Shalhoub. Who doesn't love Tony Shalhoub?
How
do you not like Tony Shalhoub?
I just love him. And this is pretty early in his career, right?
It's after Wings, right?
Oh, it's after Wings?
I think it's after Wings. Now, when was Big Night? Is this right around Big Night or a little after Big Night?
This is it's 96 is Big Night, 97 is Men in Black. He was in Barton. Before that, he was in Barton Fink and Quick Change. He's one of those guys that you wonder he's not going to be a star, and he's kind of a star. I mean, he's not a star, but he's low A-lister, right?
Right, and he follows this up by he's on Monk for years. He becomes not just an A-lister, but a top A-lister as a television guy.
And then he's in your show. He's in your show.
He's in my show, Mrs. Maisel. I don't know if he ever was nominated for Mrs. Maisel, but he's so good in that. He's 70. I did not realize that.
Is he really?
He's 70. He went to Yale. He went to University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, University of Southern Maine, and Yale University. I got an MFA.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anthony Mark Shalhoub.
Anthony Mark Shalhoub. What is he? Is he Lebanese or?
He is. I believe he is. Yeah, Lebanese, correct.
Okay.
But born in the United States, though.
Yeah.
Born in Green Bay. Probably a Packer fan.
And 13 Emmy nominations.
And you know what? Deservedly so.
No, he's great.
He won 3 for Monk. He won 1 for Mrs. Maisel, nominated 4 times as the father.
Wow.
And then he won a daytime Emmy for The Band's Visit, which I don't know if you ever saw The Band's Visit. It's a pretty good movie.
No, what's that?
What is that?
It's about a band. A band thinks they're going to one town, winds up going to another town.
Okay.
So this band, the band thinks they're going to go and play a big show. They're Egyptians who are going to Israel, and they think they're going to play this big show, and they wind up telling the bus driver the wrong name for a town, and takes them to instead of going to New York City, or instead of going to Paris, they go to Paris, Texas, kind of thing. And they wind up playing in this little town because they're like, well, we're stuck here. We got no way to get out. It's kind of a funny show. It was a Broadway show they made into a movie. Looking at
his list of things he's done in television in 1997. This movie came out in 97, right? Men in Black?
Yes.
Yeah.
In 1997, it must have been I guess it was a cartoon, Men in Black, the series, animated television series that was on the Kids WB network. And he did the voice of Jack Jeeves. Yeah. Is that his name? That's his name, right? Jack Jeeves. Yeah. He did 2 episodes of Jack Jeeves.
Yeah. Huh. He's also great in Galaxy Quest, which is another.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. How do we forget Galaxy Quest?
Where you roll out and you're just like, oh, this is just so silly.
Oh my gosh. Galaxy Quest. He's so great in.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. It's so good. He's got an odd list of movies. Nothing, that aside from Galaxy Quest, like the 13 Ghosts, Spy Kids, Men in Black 2, Spy Kids 2, Spy Kids 3D.
He's in all the Cars movies. doing
The
voices.
Cars movies, yes,
right.
the Cars movies. Yep.
He's had a nice career.
He's had a really nice career and really great in television. Boy, he seems like he's made for TV. David Cross is in Men in Black, a pretty small role.
Very small role, but impactful.
But it's David Cross.
He gets a bigger role in the second one. The second one, he's a bigger role.
Yeah, David Cross doing David Cross things. He's good.
Vern Troyer as the alien son.
That's weird, right?
Yeah, that's pretty weird. None of the other names. Mrs. Redstick, Becky Ann Baker. She's been in lots of stuff.
Now there's a couple other folks. Nussbaum. Wait, is it?
Mike Nussbaum. Yeah.
Gentle. Now he's a Mamet guy. He's been in a lot of like the David Mamet movies.
Oh, really?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I think he might be a Chicago guy, so I assume he might be. And then the really tall guy that he meets with.
Yeah, who's Lurch?
Well, he's Lurch, but he was also in. I think he's in Twin Peaks. He's
in
giant.
Twin Peaks. Yeah.
Yes,
he's the giant in Twin Peaks. Yeah. He's
Yes.
like Danish, or he's from the Netherlands or Belgium or something like that.
It's like
he's a European guy.
His name is Karel Struycken.
He's Dutch.
Yeah, I know it was something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of neat. Like all the guys. Oh, and then the van driver in the beginning of the movie. Did either of you see The White Lotus, the last season?
Yeah,
I did not.
He's the guy that was married to what's her name? To the guy who was running the scam.
Oh yeah.
And he's also in Napoleon Dynamite. He's Uncle Rico. In Napoleon Dynamite.
It's John Grease or Grise or something, right?
It took me a second. I'm like, hey, it's Uncle Rico.
He's also in the Taken movies.
He's been around.
I like the guy in the very beginning playing his partner, Richard Hamilton.
Oh yeah, he was good.
Playing like I'm too old for this guy who's got to I got to move along.
That guy's been in so much. Yeah.
I wish I had the flashy thing though. I really want the flashy thing.
Yeah, I know that'd be great to have that thing, wouldn't it?
I'd use it on myself.
Well, yeah, I would do that
totally
too.
But I kind of do actually on a daily basis, apparently, because I can't remember anything. So
I think Wendy might have one.
I think when I turn the lights on, that actually does
Just
it to me.
Right here for your eye test.
Sure.
Any other actors in here you guys want to talk about?
There's a lot of people in. I just can't remember a lot of them, but yeah, I think we hit on the big ones.
No, we didn't really talk about Will Smith.
Will Smith is really good in this movie.
He is really good in this movie, and when I see a movie like this, I think I get that comedic actor wants to spread his wings and get into some serious roles. He went off, I don't want to say deep end, probably the wrong thing to say about Will Smith these days. He really went into extreme on the serious stuff, right?
Because he did Ali, he did a whole
became like this other actor, right? And not in a horrible way, but I miss this Will Smith.
I think for a lot of these guys, they age out of it though.
I think they age out of it on their own, but by their own choice though. He thinks he needed to be a bigger actor.
I think he
or more dramatic actor.
He gets replaced by like the Kevin Hart role,
that's
that
probably
kind of
true.
Or just the young guys that come in and they're the new up and coming comic. They're the new person they want to throw in a bunch of these roles.
Yeah.
Chris Tucker probably took some roles from him.
Yeah.
You certainly could have seen him playing those roles with Jackie Chan, and
totally.
And Chris Tucker takes the roles.
He could have been. I guess I should look at his list of stuff. He had this little period of just doing funny movies, and then he got super serious. I mean, his last X movies, Aladdin, I don't remember that, Suicide Squad, 7 Pounds, Hancock, I Am Legend, Hitch, Shark Tale, iRobot.
There's some comedy.
There's a mix, but there's some heavy stuff. Ali, Enemy of the State.
To a certain extent, when a lot of these guys are young and up and comers, they're going out there and you're going to pay me $10 million to be in this movie, I'll be in it. And then at a certain point in time, they have so much money, they go, now I can pick movies. I don't have to be in that movie anymore. I can turn stuff down.
It seems light years from when he was a rap artist. I mean, light years. This 30 years ago. He's not even, you don't hear about him going back and making music anymore, right? That's not even a thing, right? That's not even an option anymore. Funny guy. I wish he would do more fun roles. I think it'd actually be good for his public perception. I think he's gotten so serious, and he's got this very dramatic personal life. It seems like a good comedy would do him well. We are on to the last category, and I guess that's my job.
Okay, I'm sorry, we're out of time. It's time to go. Thanks for coming.
Well, you know what? It's 7 o'clock here on the West Coast, and our electric bill, the clock turns off at 7. So, I was given the category of Islay whiskeys, right? And I guess that's pretty much a single malt Scotch, I guess.
So here's one question with Islay. Would you consider that ever to be a starter whiskey for anybody? It's as polarizing as it gets.
It can be.
Yes.
I think if you are a Scotch drinker already and you are not a peated whiskey drinker and you want to go into peated whiskey and Islay, I think you look at it that way. If you're drinking Tito's and then you want to just get into the Scotch category, you probably don't go to Islay whiskeys, right? That's probably not a good thing to tell somebody.
You probably step into blends first for Scotch, get an appreciation for the flavor profile and the price point and the availability in every bar, and then kind of move on to, okay, now I can try something else.
In general, I mean for Scotch.
Just in general, like if you were trying to bring someone into Scotch,
sure. Yeah,
move them in that way. Maybe roll them through some of the Speyside or some of the, and then bring them to Islay.
So I think if, like with you and Jameson, I think what's the thing that you see most on a shelf, like in airports and everywhere, like Glenfiddich 12, right? Or Glenlivet, I mean. Maybe you'll see Balvenie. I think that's where you probably start someone who's really doesn't have any
about Scotch in general.
So when somebody asks me, because I get this question actually a lot, I want to have a single malt and I don't know what I want. Where should I start? My favorite is to do the Balvenie Caribbean cask.
Rum cask. Oh yeah, the rum cask.
The rum cask, right? So it's a little sweet, it's a little fruity, it's a little woody. That's where I have people start. And then there's no smoke, there's no peat, there's nothing acidic about it. It's just, I don't want to say bland, it's not bland, but I think it's a good where to start. Now, I'm sure lots of people would say, Glenfiddich or Glenlivet, any of the Glens, that's probably a good place to start too.
And Glen will do.
Glen Googly. So if we're past that point, and then we're okay, now we want to get into some I want to get into a polarizing whiskey. How do I get into polarizing whiskeys? And you've chosen this island off the coast of Scotland. So then you've got 9 or 10 distilleries there now, right?
Yep.
Now, I think there's 3 whiskeys that are pretty common. You see them everywhere in a lot of bars. I just say everywhere. You got Lagavulin 16, Laphroaig 10, and Ardbeg 10. Those are the 3.
Yep.
Right. You might see some of the other distilleries, but those 3 you're going to see. Maybe was it Bowmore 12? Is that the
maybe? But I think you nailed it with those 3. Those 3 are the 3
right?
biggies, I think.
You can get pre-pandemic. You could get Laphroaig 10 at Trader Joe's for $39. You could get Lagavulin 16 at Costco for $59 on sale. Ardbeg 10, $49, $59 at Bevmo or Total Wine. They're not. Now that's a huge leap from what you were talking about, Angelo, with bourbons and ryes.
Yeah,
but that's pretty low end on for scotches, right? When everything else is $100.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and I think if you're going to Islay, you've already kind of dipped your toe in the water with Scotch, for the most part.
With Scotch, yes, with Scotch,
and
totally.
you kind of
maybe you're
spending a little more.
Yes, and maybe you haven't back up a little bit. There are some really low end scotches, right?
Oh, yeah.
Those private label blends that you Glen something or
the grouse.
Islay Mist or whatever. They're with all these ones that are at the bottom of the shelf. I don't even know where they're made. They're not distilleries, but and they're pretty cheap. But if you're wanting to get into a single malt, I think the 3 that I mentioned from Islay are probably a place to start. Now, each have their own polarization factor, right? What I chose was Ardbeg 10. Lafroig is really way out there.
Yeah.
And Lafroig is a little bit more out there, can be on the price. And I was a little torn between the two. And I actually had an open bottle of Ardbeg 10. So that's what I chose. Ardbeg, I think in general, is sort of a fun, it's marketed as a very fun whiskey. It looks serious on the outside, but the marketing of it is like all over the place. And it's almost too marketing-y for a lot of people. And it's sort of, people think it's kind of lost its way because of all the marketing and even all the different expressions that they come out with all the time now. And it's owned by a very, 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 very large, one of the largest brands in the world, luxury brands, LVMH, right? Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. It feels like Dr. Bill Lumsden has, like, he can do whatever he wants there because it's a small thing for the LVMH farm. And so he can do what he wants. And they pretty much give him free reign, I think. Now, there was another whiskey I thought about, but it's not really easy to get, I think, is Caol Ila. Now, that's my favorite brand, but it's not easy to get. You don't see it on a lot of shelves, either the peated or non-peated version. But you do see it in other places. Yeah. And one of the things I was actually going to bring up, and I considered suggesting, I'm going to suggest, is Costco's private label, Kirkland brand, whatever they call it, private brand, Islay single malt Scotch. It was, I don't know if they have it still, $39. And I'm 99% sure it's Caol Ila. Right. I don't know for certain, but, and for $40, and it's, I have the bottle here. It's 50% alcohol, 50% ABV, oak cask. It's not anything, not a wine cask.
Like a bourbon cask, you mean?
Bourbon cask. It is solid, and it's not offensive. It's not over the top on the peat level. It's, some people might think it is if they're not used to that, but I think it's just a solid $40 for 50% alcohol, a single malt Scotch. It's pretty good.
Yes, it is.
It's not a bad price. But you don't know what brand, right? I'm assuming it's Caol Ila because there's so much Caol Ila in the world. But back to Ardbeg. So this Ardbeg is also 50% non-chill filtered. I'm sorry, it's 46%.
I was going to say, it's 50, really?
It's 46%. The Corvecchian, is that the one that's 50%?
Probably more, yeah.
Or is it Ugadal is 50%? One of them is 50, I think. Now, I know a lot of people, when you pop open the bottle of an Ardbeg, even the 10, you're, oh my God, what is that? I mean, I'm used to it. You guys are used to it.
Right.
Mike's not used to it.
I'm used to it now. Curse you, Angelo.
I think it's just a beautiful whiskey still. And I've heard people say, oh, it's not the Ardbeg 10 that was the Ardbeg 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Whatever.
Well, what is?
Exactly, right? I think it's just a beautiful smelling whiskey. And yes, you're going to get a little bit of a smack in the face with the smoke.
Yeah.
And the peat.
But then you get past that and you get that vanilla and you get
there's so much going on there. It's a complex whiskey and it's only, what did I say? $60, whatever the heck, $50.
What do you think of the Wee Beastie instead of get the 5 instead of the 10?
The Wee Beastie's a little bit more beastie. I think it's a little more punchy.
Yeah. So back to Caol Ila for a second. I'll answer your question. I've said this before. I like younger peated whiskeys.
Agreed.
The older a peated whiskey gets, the less the peat is a dominant flavor. And our friend Lee Zero loves old Caol Ila, but the peat goes away. 30-year-old Caol Ilas have there's no peat almost in them
anymore. Are gone, yeah.
Right. So I like a young, and you only get the young stuff with like a independent bottling, right? A single cast or something. Those 8 and 10-year-old, that's a sweet spot, I think, for Caol Ila. The 10-year-old Ardbeg is perfect. It's perfect. The 5-year-old Wee Beastie is that super punchy version of what this is going to be. I personally like it a lot because it's really in your face. It's part of the standard lineup, right? I think, for
I
them.
think so.
And and it's like a $40 whiskey.
Yeah, well, that's why I was saying that. Like, if someone were to go and see Ardbeg and look for the price point, the Wee Beastie wouldn't be the first step.
No, it should be the second step.
You would probably buy that bottle and then go, I don't like
Whoa.
whiskey because there's so much
right.
Yeah,
compared to the 10 or something else, a Kalila, some other bottle.
It seems backwards, right? It seems like the 10 should be the second, you're going up the chain, right? But it's really just the opposite, at least on that level.
Yeah, and a part of that is just simply time.
Yeah, that's right.
I can sell the whiskey in 5 years. I can sell it for less because I don't have to age another 5.
That's right. That's right. So
one thing, going back to like a starter peated. I mean, you could always do the peat monster, a Compass Box peat monster, which is probably a little bit more approachable.
A little bit more approachable because it's a blend and it's not all peated whiskey, right? There's only it, and I think the peat's coming from mostly Kalila, because John Glazer at Compass Box loves Kalila, and I'm not sure what the other components are in there. So that's a really good option for it's not 100% Islay, right?
Because it's really not a monster. It really isn't.
No, the original one even wasn't, but the cast strength one, which because of the higher ABV, it's more of a monster because of the ABV, but it's not a super heavily peated whiskey.
No, not at all.
If Pete's the question here, if Pete's the issue, Kalila is not that peated.
No.
Right?
No,
Bowmore is not that peated. Bunnahabhain is not peated.
Yeah.
Right?
Bruichladdich.
So you can start there too, right? Bruichladdich there's an unpeated Bruichladdich.
Yeah.
Right? The whatever that blue one's called.
Yeah.
So you definitely
the Laddie 10. Is that what it was?
The Laddie. I think it's
maybe it's no age statement now, but
yeah, you could go those as well. And now we're talking about dollars. We're jumping up in a little bit. I don't know. The Bruichladdich probably the bottom ones are probably in the 50 to 60 range, maybe.
I haven't had one in decades. In years. I don't know.
A Bowmore is probably 60 to 70. Bowmore 10, 12, whatever the bottom one is. I don't know about the Bunnahabhains. The Kalila, if you can find them, they probably start at 60 or 70.
Yeah.
Maybe the Kalila 12 or 14 or whatever it is. So I think the Ardbeg is a pretty good starting point. Lafroig 10 is a great starting, and Lagavulin 16 are great starting points too. And they're just different.
But 10
price issues are
Lafroig 10 is a lot punchier.
It's a monster because the Lafroig peat is way more medicinally, more pungent.
Yeah, it doesn't have that sweetness that once you get past.
No, it's way more offensive, I think, to a person who's not used to it.
Right.
Ange, what was in that sample pack that you had?
Which one?
From I think it was the Diageo. What was in that sample pack?
Oh, it was the Talisker 10. Talisker 10 wouldn't be a bad start.
Because the 10 actually is not a bad one either, right?
What was
That's a good start. It was the Talisker 10, the Kalila 12, and then the I can't remember.
I can't remember what the other thing was, but maybe that's also a venue. At this time of year, you find those sample packs,
right?
So
yes,
you get they're what 200s? Is that what they were? They were 200s. So you get 3 200s, and you can kind of see where you want to go in terms of the peat.
Yeah. We in terms of price, we've talked about how the rule is become $10 a year.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true with these.
No.
At all.
No.
That it's not $100 for this Ardbeg 10. It's not $160 for Lagavulin 16. No. Those are still really great.
Yeah, really good buys. Yeah.
Price point for people.
Yeah.
Because if you said I'm going to spend $160 on a bottle of Scotch, you're getting something crazy. Probably, that's a lot of money. But you can get Lagavulin 16 for $70 or something, right? So half that factor, whatever that is. So there you go. I think we've covered 3 good categories of whiskey: Islay peated Scotches, single malts, Irish whiskeys, and bourbons and ryes.
Yeah.
And the point of all this was to be able to make the tent bigger, bring more people in, move people into another level of drinking that they haven't been drinking for whiskey, and not having to spend a fortune to do it.
Nope.
And also think about some good gift ideas with the holidays here, right?
Yeah, you're going through Thanksgiving, through all the holidays, and then in through the new year, and you show up with any of those bottles, people are going to like you. They'll invite you back.
And God knows you need to drink through the holidays.
So we've covered lots of starter whiskeys here. Hopefully everyone's learned a little bit of something out there in TV land. And we talked about a really fun movie tonight.
Are we done with the movie?
I think we are. Are we done with the movie?
No final thoughts?
Let's see. Are there any tidbits? Let's see.
Oh, any tidbits or great lines?
Tidbits. Let's see. Okay. The known aliens visible on the screen. Remember when he says, he's going
his
through all these
teacher.
people?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got Al Roker, Isaac Mizrahi, Danny DeVito, director Barry Sonnenfeld.
Yes.
Chloe Sonnenfeld, Barry's daughter, Sylvester Stallone, Dionne Warwick, Newt Gingrich, Tony Robbins, George Lucas, and executive producer Steven Spielberg.
So funny.
Let's see, another tidbit. Will Smith didn't believe it was really Steven Spielberg on the other end of the line when the executive producer first called to talk to him about Men in Black. I get that. I get it. Can you imagine? It's like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Sure.
Really?
Sure it is.
Sure you are.
Sure
you are. Let's see. What else here? Will Smith improvised the line, "It just be raining black people in New York." When he jumps on the bus.
Under the bus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have this on your list, Ange, but Danny Elfman did the soundtrack.
Yes.
Yes.
And was nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah.
But did not win.
There you go. When the monitors show Jay's old third grade teacher, it says she teaches in Philadelphia, where Will Smith was born and raised.
He's from. That's right.
That's right. What else we got here? Lyndon Fiorentino won her role in Men in Black in a poker game with Barry Sonnenfeld, apparently. That's the story. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. And I'm sure there's more.
I think this is the best of the Men in Black movies.
Yes,
but I've heard they're coming out with a Men in Black 5.
Whoa!
With Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. So
really?
What?
I don't know if they're going to come out. I don't know what they're going to do because Tommy Lee Jones is pretty old now.
Yeah, he's not looking great.
Got to be in his late 70s, mid 70s.
Maybe he's going to take over the Rip Torn role.
Maybe.
Maybe.
He could be.
But there's going to be another. There's going to be a fifth one.
You said someone said 91% on the Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes.
Gene Siskel had given it 3.5 stars out of 4, saying the film was smart, funny, and hip. A hip adventure film in a summer of car wrecks and explosions. Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4, giving particular praise to the film's self-reflective humor and Rick Baker's alien creature designs. And Janet Maslin of the New York Times wrote the film is actually a shade more deadpan and peculiar than such across-the-board marketing make it sound. It's also extraordinarily ambitious with all-star design and special effects, talent, and genuinely artful visual style. And she praises Barry Sonnenfeld. So, it really got some great reviews at the time.
Yeah. It was really well done.
For good reason, right?
Yeah.
It's really interesting how many things he got. Did you see this? Mike, how many things he got nominated for?
Music, art direction, and makeup.
Yeah. And then for these various other kinds of awards, it was nominated.
Oh, yeah.
Satellite Awards, the Saturn Awards, Golden Globes, BAFTA. It's nominated for various things, and won various things as well. Will Smith won for the Blockbuster Entertainment Awards for Best Actor. Favorite soundtrack it won also. So it's really one of the better movies we've reviewed. We've talked about apparently.
A movie we probably actually watch again.
Yes, we would probably watch it again.
We've had some good ones on the list.
We have had. This is a good one.
Come on.
This was a good one. So I don't know. We've kind of wrapped up at both of these categories. So I think we could probably just say thank you for listening in. And this will be a podcast soon on the available for download wherever you get your downloadable podcasts.
Aren't they all downloadable?
What we watch. You're right. What we watch when we drink, and we are here again on a Whiskey Wednesday, talking whiskey and in this case movies, and we'll be back again with something more fascinating and interesting next time.
God, I hope so. Shall we roll the credits?
Play us off.
Sure, play us out. Play us right into Thanksgiving.
You got it. Adios.
Into the next century.
Come on.
Anytime now.
Come on. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Audible, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can also find us on boozdancing.com, and if you have any questions, comments, show or drink suggestions, email us at boozdancing@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.